It's difficult when someone gives you feedback that makes you realize you're going to have to rewrite a giant chunk, because that's a lot of work. But you also know that it's going to be a better book. And one of the things that I look at when I get that kind of feedback is whether or not the feedback is going to make the book into the book I want to write, or if it's going to make it into something else. It's very tempting, especially early career, to take every piece of advice. And it's like, oh, they said something terrible about the book. This must mean I have to fix it. And depending on who that person is, sometimes that's true. Like, I've learned that my editor, Liz Gorinsky, I have learned that my editor, when she tells me that something is wrong, she is correct every single time. She is not always correct about the way to fix it, but she is always correct that she has identified a problem, and it is a legitimate problem that I need to deal with no matter how much I don't want to.
Like, it will ring true. The feedback will either ring true, or it will help you realize that your intention was good but it wasn't clear. So you can either try and make something work, or you can completely let go of it. That's what I think of. And then there are certain sections in terms of pure writing where I just know it's weak. You know, I always say it's like you leave a manuscript for a while and it's like dead leaves falling off. They will just fall off because they're not meant to be there. And if the structure is solid, no matter how much you shake it, it's not going to crumble. So that's the other thing, is looking at structure, which is sometimes very hard to explain because structure for me is so organic, but it's absolutely crucial.
There's the different levels if you've hired a freelance editor, if you have a friend or any of that. But I would say the same goes through all, is that you do have to be able to evaluate feedback, be honest with your own work. You do absolutely need a strong sense of self, because I've known writers who, as soon as somebody says, I think maybe that person should be a female instead of a male. Oh yes, okay, I totally see what you're saying. And they change, and then they get so muddied sometimes they don't even know their own story anymore. And so I really think through feedback when it comes to me. My initial reaction sometimes is annoyance. I do. I'm never super cheerful about it. Normally, because we all just want to be done. The first time we ever write the book, we want to be done. Our goal, I'm speaking for everybody, but my goal when I write an entire book is I'm really hoping that it's beautiful, it's perfect, that your editor's just going to say, this is the best thing that you've ever written. I'd like you to change one word on page 5, but otherwise it's pristine. That's what we're going for, and it never, ever, ever happens, ever. So there's always, I find for myself, there's an initial resistance, and it's generally frustration. Then I'll let the information settle, and then I begin to pick through. Do I agree? Are they pointing to an issue, but maybe their fix is not correct, but their issue is correct? There's a problem there, and it's trust. I really trust my New York editor, Jen. I call her New York editor, but that's the easiest way to define her. But she is never wrong. Some of her fixes or ideas, once I actually try to put it in place, may not work. And that's, of course, because she's human as well, and she's not actually writing it. She's tossing out, ideas. And then it's up to me as the writer to go, okay, making that character a psychiatrist actually just made it sound so much like Still Missing, so she can't be a psychiatrist. I'll try a doctor. And then she and I talk, and she goes, not loving the doctor because... So, feedback. I evaluate it, I think about it, I go through, I let it sit, and then so I think being open is really important, but also not just jumping off willy-nilly. And you really have to pick your advisors. Some people really suck at giving feedback. They can be cruel, and it's also your own. They shouldn't be really cruel, but certain people can trigger your own internal, I don't want to say annoyance, but kind of. Like if I have somebody give me the feedback, that somehow the way they'll say it sometimes is jarring. So I know that's not a person I want to choose again, because they're triggering some sort of emotional issue in me, a defensiveness. Defensiveness is probably one of the big things. So I make sure to pick people who don't make me feel defensive.